So this here is a painting video on how to do the Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch. So we did him up with more of a spectral type flame as opposed to like an incandescent orangey flame. I think this looks really nice actually. So if you're curious on how we did either the flame or the model itself with the blue-purple gradient going on, please feel free to stay tuned. If you find this video helpful or if you're interested in any of this, please feel free to leave a like or a share or subscribe to the channel and you'll catch this video and many others as we go along. Stay tuned and we'll show you how we painted this guy up. So this is a video on how to paint an Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch. So we just finished building one and now we're going to paint him up and get him ready for the table. So the first thing we did was we primed him with some Wraith bone spray. Now, I would have used Corax White, I just didn't have any, and I wanted to get him done today. So we used Wraith bone instead, but any light base color will work, just something to help the paint stick on. So we're gonna move on to our next color. So for our first base color we're gonna do, for the flamer, what we're gonna do is all the way up to the hands here, as well as the head and everything else here, and the other side as well. That's all going to go blue. So we're going to start that with just a base coat of Thousand Suns blue. So we'll do that right now. So we're going to just start painting that blue on him, getting a good base coat on. And because it's a base paint, we'll get some decent coverage here. And it's watered down quite nicely. I'll just keep doing that. So we'll keep going at this and we'll meet back here in a few minutes. So now that we're finished with our layer of Thousand Suns blue, as you can see we have a nice blue base color here all throughout the model. So what we're going to do now is we're going to paint the inside of the mouth here. And we're going to do that with some Abaddon Black, just to darken that up before we start doing any shades. So we'll do that right now. I'm just going to get all inside of that there. Just darken that up fine. Just so that there's not much light that escapes and it doesn't not match the rest of the model when it's done. So we'll finish that up now and we'll meet back here again in a few minutes. So now that our Abaddon Black is dry, we're going to shade the whole model, or at least all of the blue stuff. So we're going to do that with some Drakenhof Nightshade. And we're just going to be pretty liberal with shading it all. So we're just going to apply that shade all over the model here, just like so. Getting in all the little crags. Just like so. So we'll finish this up and we'll meet back here in a few more minutes. So now that our blue shade has dried, what we're going to do is create the transition to the more purple base. So what we're going to do now is dry brush on a little bit of Naggaroth Night. So we got a little bit on our brush here. We're just going to dry brush that in the bottom area here, fading it off as we go up higher. Trying to get into all the little crevices there. So we'll keep working at this and we'll be back here in a few minutes. So this is our unit now that we've finished with the Naggaroth Night. And as you can see, we've got this nice purple gradient that travels up into the blue here. And it goes on both sides. So what we're going to do now is add a shade to that just to get rid of all the blues in the crevice. So we're going to shade that with a little bit of Druchii Violet here. So we're going to do that right now. So all we're going to do is take that shade and just fill it in all the cracks toward the bottom half of the model here. Just like so. pretty much like that. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll take over from there. So now that the shade is dry, we're going to put a highlight layer over the blue. So we're going to do that with a little bit of Temple Guard blue and just a very light dry brush over all of that. So just a light dry brush here. Just like so, just to bring out the highlights and the details. As you can see, makes it a little bit nicer. So we're going to do that for the rest of the model. We'll meet back here in a few minutes. So here's our model now that we've finished with our highlight layer. And as you can see, we've hit all of the high points here. So they've all lit up quite nicely. We've got a face back now. It hasn't disappeared within the details. We've got the second face up above. Same thing on the other side. You can now see the limbs and the digits on the hand and in the pods here. So all that is much nicer looking. So what we're going to do now is do the same thing for the purple down below. And with that, we're going to do a dry brush of Daemonette Hide. And I know it's a base paint, but we're going to go really, really light on it just to bring out some of that highlight there as well. So we'll do that now. We're just going to dry brush that on there. Just like so. Just bringing some of those details back out. And we're going to blend it into the blue that we've done earlier, up above. So those two colors have a nice blend into each other, just like so. So we'll keep going with this, and we'll see what it looks like when we're finished. So now that we're finished with our Daemonette Hide, we're going to do another highlight layer, or an edge highlight if you want, depending on how patient you are. We're going to take a little bit of blue horror, and we're going to go just lightly over all of the blue, just the high points again. So we'll do that now. For these lighter and lighter highlights, we're going to want less and less of it on our brush because it's very, very bright. As you can see from the way it's lighting up the fingers here. Like so. So it's lighting that up quite nicely. We're going to do a little bit more of that blue horror. We'll meet back here when it's done. So now with our blue horror highlight layer finished, we're going to do the same thing on the purple for a tiny little light highlight. So we're going to take a little bit of Slaanesh Grey, and we're going to dry brush that very lightly on the very much edges here. So just a little highlight dry brush there. Just lightly picking out just those high areas. Just like so. So for the flames for our Exalted Flamer now that we've got it based in white, what we're going to do is put a base coat over that. And we're going to use some interesting things now. We're going to use the base of Nihilakh Oxide, which is basically just the rust color we usually use for like things like Plague Marines and Nurgle and stuff. But we're going to put a base of that right over all of the white over here. So we'll use it pretty much out of the pot just because we don't have that mixed with anything. And this is a technical paint. We're just going to base it with that, with our little spectral type flames. Just like so. So we'll do that for the rest of the model, and we'll meet back here in a few minutes once it's done. Don't forget to get in between all of these flames. So we'll do that. We'll meet back here in a couple more minutes. So now that our oxide has dried, we're going to add another shade over the top of this. And we're going to use some Nighthaunt Gloom. So this is our second technical paint in a row. I've watered this one down about 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 with medium. Just so it's not too thick. And then we're just going to shade that right over the top. Just like so. It's nice and watered down, so it'll just fill in the the grooves. So now that our Nighthaunt Gloom has dried, what we're going to do is add a dry brush over the top of that. So we're going to dry brush on some Ulthuan Grey, and that will start lightening up our model here. So it is just a straight up dry brush. Nothing too exciting. Just like so, and all we're trying to do is lighten some of that flame back up. Like so, see? So we'll keep doing this, and we'll be back here in a few minutes when it's done. So here's our Exalted Flamer now that we've done with the Ulthuan Grey. So now what we're going to do is do one more highlight layer over the top of that. And it'll be a very, very light highlight because it's so bright, but it'll be white scar. So we'll do a little bit of white scar right over the top there. And dry brush that right on. Making sure it's light enough. And just dry brush on a little bit of that white scar on all the high points here. So we'll do that, and that'll finish off our flame, and then we'll move on to the rest of the model. So with that, our flames are now finished. So what we're going to do now is move on to doing the teeth. And for that, right here, all these little teeth there, as well as all the ones on the lower half of the model, we're going to use a little bit of Screaming Skull and a detailed brush. We're just going to very subtly pick all of those out. Just like that. So we'll do the rest of those and we'll meet back here in a few minutes. And here's our flamer now that we're finished with the teeth. And as you can see, it's really brought the model out a little bit. You can definitely see where all the mouths are now. So what we're going to do now is go over the eyes themselves. And for that, we're going to use a little bit of Yriel Yellow. We'll just try to pick out his eye. Like that. So do the same thing on this side over here. Like that. And then we'll move on from there. We just probably have to do the base and then clear coat it. So we'll get some of that done and we'll meet back here in a few minutes. So this is our Exalted Flamer, nice and finished now. We based him up and clear coated him, and that's pretty much the model. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like or a comment. If you really want to be helpful, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That's a great help. And otherwise than that, we will see you at our next painting video. Hopefully yours turned out as good as this one did. Cheers!